been a lot of discussion these days about how to be a better equipped civilian, to be able to respond in the event of a tragic situation such as an active shooter. Today we're going to break down what may happen in an active shooter situation and some of the things I personally carry to be better prepared to respond if I find myself in such an unfortunate situation. If someone is experiencing massive hemorrhage, this person can bleed out in a matter of minutes. By the time we call 911, wait for first responders to show up on scene to provide care, those minutes could likely be past. So it's up to the bystanders to be able to provide immediate first response and direct care to these patients until professional help can get there. Thankfully, through some of the initiatives such as the Stop the Bleed program, there has been a greater awareness for bystanders and civilians learning how to stop severe bleeding. These classes teach how and when to apply tourniquets, how to apply direct pressure, how to pack a wound, and some basics to be able to keep the blood inside the body for a victim so that we can have a greater chance of saving this person's life. When we're talking about somebody that's been injured by a gunshot wound, if they've been injured in the arms or the legs and there's severe bleeding, we can control that bleeding with a tourniquet application. The quickest and most efficient way to control that bleeding is by a commercial tourniquet. You can try to improvise some things, but most of the time they end up failing and don't work. So your best solution is a commercial tourniquet if one is available. Now, there's not always bleeding control kits around you no matter where you are. Now, sometimes there are. There are more and more of those in airports, schools, and public places, but there's not always one available. So I personally like to carry at least one tourniquet on my person. Now, in areas where we can't place a tourniquet, such as junctional areas, that is where the arm comes into the core, where the legs come into the core, and also where your head or your neck comes into the core. So neck would be junctional as well. If we have bleeding in these areas, we can't apply a tourniquet, so we have to resort to what is called wound packing. We immediately apply direct pressure to the area of bleeding, and then we proceed to fill that entire wound with gauze, place direct pressure on top of that gauze or a hemostatic agent such as Quick Clot or Celox gauze. Then we can apply a pressure dressing on top of that wound to continue to hold pressure. Our goal here is to try to get that point of injury to clot off so that the bleeding stops and we keep whatever blood is left inside the body where it's supposed to be. All right, so let's take a minute to talk about the core. So we have the chest and the abdomen. There's a lot of large arteries that run inside. If we have damage to those arteries, we have severe bleeding that can result in death in just a matter of minutes. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that we can do to be able to stop that bleeding apart from them being in surgery. One thing that we can do that can help though is more related to the lungs. If we have a sucking chest wound is what we call it, or penetrating trauma to the chest that causes a lung collapse, we can put an occlusive dressing, which is simply some plastic with some duct tape, or a commercial occlusive dressing, which also sometimes has built-in vents, which is very helpful, but something such as the Hyphen chest seal. It's a piece of plastic, already has adhesive on it, peel it, stick it over top of the wound, and it's a very rapid way to be able to place an occlusive dressing on the chest wall. By closing off this chest wall again, that allows the lung to reinflate and helps that person to be able to continue to get oxygen down into their system where they need it. If you're looking for more information to learn how to control severe bleeding, check out the Stop the Bleed campaign. At 6 Echo, we've also done a lot of training videos that you can find on YouTube. Now, while our YouTube videos are helpful to be able to help you understand some of these concepts, it's not an end-all be-all. You should go get hands-on training. Play with the trainers, put your hands on tourniquets, learn how to use this equipment, especially if it's something you're going to be carrying on your person and relying on in the case of a disaster. There's this equipment that I like to carry with me, but I need a convenient way to carry it, so I carry that in my Kicker ankle kit. This is the Kicker ankle kit, which is an ankle medical kit that we at 6 Echo designed. It is a neoprene based, it's lightweight, it's comfortable, I can wear it for long times, and honestly I forget that I even have it on. And that's one thing that we wanted when we were designing an ankle kit. We wanted something that someone would wear every day so that you could wear it, and if it's something that's uncomfortable or something that people are not looking forward to wearing, it doesn't become second nature and you don't carry it with you. So whether it's this kit or whether you have another way, whether it's in your pockets or a bag that you take with you, have some way to have a little bit of medical accessible to you. So plan ahead and don't get caught without some form of basic medical. Now let's back up a step. We've just treated somebody that was injured from a gunshot wound. But let's step back a minute. Before we can actually treat that person, we have to make sure that there's not any more lead flying in our direction. We have to neutralize the threat. We have to make sure that we are either operating in a safe place, that the shooter is gone, or that the threat has been neutralized. So if there is an active threat and I start treating a person that's been wounded, there's a good chance I may be injured or killed, and now I cannot provide aid. There's also a chance that other innocent bystanders will continue to be harmed until the threat is neutralized. So to take care of that, I carry a SIG P365. I have this in a T-Rex sidecar holster. I have 12 rounds of 9mm in the magazine. I've got one in the chamber. I have a separate magazine that I keep in my pocket that also have 12 rounds. So I have 25 rounds of 9mm that I conceal carry. And again, I don't look tactical when I'm out and about. This is under my shirt. You can't see it. My ankle kit is underneath my pant leg. So I'm blending in so I don't become a target myself, but I have the tools on me to be able to respond to a disaster and to be able to help out and potentially save lives. So we've talked about caring for the injured. And even before that, we have to make sure we've neutralized the threat so there's not a continued threat so that now we can treat. But even before that, there's some steps that we can take to help prevent some of this injury. One is to make sure that we are not putting ourselves in harm's way unnecessarily. By making sure that we're aware of our surroundings, where we're going, and not putting ourselves in jeopardy, we can eliminate some possibilities of a threat, although we'll never completely eliminate that. These shootings happen in schools, churches, all over the place. So no matter where you are, there's still the potential for threat. So something that I've been carrying in my backpack, something that is very easy for you to carry with you on a regular basis, are these body armor panels by Premier Body Armor. So this panel by Premier Body Armor is super thin, lightweight, flexible. You can throw it in a backpack, throw it on your back, and now you at least have coverage of your vital organs, at least from one direction in case someone comes up on you. If you do find yourself in an unfortunate event, you can sling your backpack around to the front. You have some form of protection for your vital organs in the front. You can then draw a weapon to engage, to neutralize the threat. You can provide medical care, but you have some form of protection for your vital organs so that you are not shot in the core or have any severe hemorrhage that happens in the core. Remember what we said about severe hemorrhage in the core a little bit earlier. We have lots of arteries and even our heart that live inside our core here, in our chest. And if we have severe bleeding to that, there's nothing we can do pre-hospital to be able to stop that bleeding. But this is where prevention is our best medicine. So if we can prevent some of that damage to the body, particularly in the core area, that's going to be our best option. This would also be a good option to be able to give to your kids, put it in their backpack, and just teach them, if there ever is a threat, to move your backpack around to the front and get behind it. And at least the vital organs and the areas that are harder to treat are covered. A lot of data that we get on trauma and trauma care comes from the military, and that makes sense because they're in harm's way, and there's a lot of trauma that happens that we can pull data from to try to make our medicine and treatment better. But one thing that we notice is a lot of tourniquet application and not as much chest injuries. But that's because a lot of these soldiers are wearing plate carriers. So they're already defended by a lot of bullets and injuries to the chest. One thing that changes as a civilian that has no plate carrier is now that we open ourselves and expose ourselves, the largest target of my body now becomes this chest area with no protection. So having some form of protection in a backpack that I can sling around front, or at least knowing that I've got something on my back in case someone comes up behind me. So companies such as Premier Body Armor are now giving us an option to be able to carry something, even concealed, to be able to protect those vital organs. So as we conclude now, we're taking a look at these three categories, which are treatment, protection, and prevention, so that we can defend innocent life and so that we can provide treatment and life-saving measures to someone that's in need. If you don't carry medical on a regular basis, I would recommend you do so. Get some tools, some basic tools like a tourniquet, some quick clot or wound packing gauze, learn how to use it, find a stop the bleed class, find a way to carry that on your person, whether it is the Kicker ankle kit by 6 Echo or whether you find some other way that's convenient for you to be able to carry medical. That's what's important, is to have the tools you need when you need them. And having the tools is not enough. Make sure you seek out proper medical training to know how to use the tools that you're carrying with you. But before we get to treatment, remember that we have to defend and we have to protect. So find a way that's convenient for you to be able to defend yourself, to be able to defend your family, your loved ones, and to be able to protect innocent life. And last but certainly not least, have some way to be able to defend yourself, to prevent the injury if at all possible. Be aware of where you're going. Be aware of your surroundings. Be watching for potential exits to get yourself out of a situation. Look for ways that you can shield yourself if something happens. And these panels from Premier Body Armor are one way that you can carry some form of protection with you no matter where you go. So one of the big takeaways here is to find something that works for you. If you have a holster that's not comfortable or a medical kit that you don't like carrying, you're not very prone to carry that with you, and then you're not going to have the tools needed when you need them. So find something that works for you, and as always, stay vigilant and stay safe.